All right, we're recording. And well, let's get started. The others can catch up after they get here. I'm Thomas Garrison, host for the Zoom meeting. Been developing and applying SEO for about 25 years. And here with my partner in crime, Arthur Moorhead. Wave at the crowd at everybody, Arthur, so they know who you are. And specifically, he loves WordPress and Elementor. So if any of you are having difficulty with Elementor and or WordPress, get in touch. We both develop in WordPress, but he's the master. There's, we're filling up. We're up to 26 whopping people so far. And let's see. Today I want to start with getting into a few more of the tools, at least a couple today, and also showing you, if you're not familiar with WordPress, and let me back that up. Anybody here not using WordPress? Okay, so you're all WordPress people. Okay, that's good. Susie Chow, it looks like she's got a problem with her video. She's flashing at us. Jessica Monroe, you do not use WordPress? Oops. Where'd she go? Just as I clicked on her, she ran away. Okay, so Jessica, what are you using? Just out of curiosity. There you are. And Debbie Gray does not.
We are on Shopify, Tom.
Shopify. Okay,
Yes.
gotcha. And Debbie Gray, you're using what instead of WordPress? Some software has a place for a blog. Oh, okay. So you're just using something else, obviously. Well, if you're using, and Mark, I would bet that you're also using a website. Isn't that correct, Mark Thiel? You say you're using GBP. Okay. What are you using for your website, Mark? Coldwell Banker page. Okay, gotcha. Yep, yep. Yours would be a lot of what we're going to do is sort of specific to WordPress today, but there are tools, and that's one of the things that I'd like everybody to have right now. I'm going to throw in a file that I created the other day, and it has a list of the tools, and not all. It's a big list, but it is not all tools. So I want everybody to understand it's a big list, but you'll be adding to it. You'll even hear us talking about how there's this other program or that other software, or you might come up with something going on, use something else. This list is not what you use all the time. Yeah, I mean, you don't use all of them every time that you're doing something. These are tools that you use, and you can compare them, so you see if you have the same information or very close to the same results on one bit of software as you do another when you're testing something. But you want as many tools as you can get your hands on to do all the testing to make sure that you feel comfortable in saying, okay, I know that whatever you were doing, that is the way that it's supposed to be. And for those who are using Wix or something similar, GoDaddy, Build-A-Site, if you're using any kind of a Build-A-Site software, you can't necessarily go and get tools from outside, but you can use tools that just use a URL, and you can plug in your URL. And let me tell you what I'm talking about here. I'll show you Here's a simple one, which is one that I use all the time. Page speed insights. Let me get my bar out of the way. Page speed insights, you just drop in whatever URL, whatever page or pages of your website that you want. You do it one page at a time, and you analyze and check the speed and a few other things. This is how your site is performing. You'll find this in the list, page speed insights, in the list that I put in the chat for you guys. You want to go here and test your site. It's not going to provide everything that you need to know, but it's like, for me, it's the starting point. First, I want to see when somebody's asking me about their website, I want to see how is that site performing, or the page of that site performing. So you go there and you plug it into PageSpeed Insights to see, is it performing great? Is it performing poorly? And then you use other tools to dig in deeper as to why it may not be performing fast. And for those of you who do have a WordPress website, I'm going to also show you this WordPress, which is just a test site for us. And this is WordPress. I just threw some things in here, some silly pictures, just testing the page. That's the results. These are the results for that page. That's a default WordPress installation, but I'll go back over here to the back end of this WordPress site and show you that it does use the Lightspeed cache from a Lightspeed server. The only way you can get that is if you're hosting with a company that uses Lightspeed servers. And I slowed down because you need to make sure that you understand that. We know of two. There might be others. Art and I try to provide information that we say we can refer you to this company or that company and say, we know that that's a good piece of software, or that's a good company, or whatever. There are two hosting companies that we recommend, a2hosting.com and greengeeks.com. They use Lightspeed servers. Anybody else is going to have a slow server, or I should say a slower server, and that has a direct effect on your performance. Now, we've talked several times, for the new people in the group, you may not have heard, but we have talked many times about what Google thinks is fast. Well, 100% obviously is fast. So if you're anything less than 100%, in this case, you're 1% off of it. So no, I wouldn't worry about it at all. But when you're down into the 20s and 30s, yes, that is unacceptable as far as Google is concerned. And according to some recent information, 95% is what Google is looking for to say, okay, that's a fast page. And why do you care if it's fast? And this is important. You all need to understand. Mobile devices. That's where everything is right now. Mobile first, everywhere you turn. If a mobile user comes to your page, whatever page that is, they give you up to 3 seconds for that page to load, or they leave. For those who know me, you know that if I stop, it's important information. If I slow down, that's important. Otherwise, I'm like a railroad train running through. But I'm saying this because performance is everything before you decide that you're going to really get into other parts of SEO. That site needs to load quickly, or you lose those mobile devices, which make up over or around 70% of all searches on Google. That's a lot of people that you're just saying, I don't care if your site is loading slow. So for those on those build-a-site platforms, test your pages. You're going to find that you don't come anywhere near that 95, I'll bet you. And even a lot of people with a WordPress site, if you're not on a Lightspeed server, you're not in that 95, most likely. And we can test any site that you want and see. And you can test each page, one page at a time. That's what you need to do to find out what you need to do for each page in order to get it running faster. Now, like I said, if you want to run really fast, if you want to make sure that the server is good, then there are two companies that have those servers. Their prices are not different in general. Sorry, I had to laugh. I probably shouldn't have done it mean, but I saw something in the chat. You're just, the chances of you getting close to the speed that I just showed you that for that WordPress site are pretty slim and none. And I'm seeing people throw some things into the chat, and it seems like Arthur's taking care of it, but Will asked, how slow is Bluehost?
It really depends.
I can't answer that.
It depends. It depends on the hosting package that you got. If you're paying, if you're paying like $295, $495 a month for hosting, then you're getting what you pay for. And I prefer. I particularly don't use Bluehost, GoDaddy, any of the cheap hosting, because of that. But they have made some improvements, so all I can say is if you got a small website that's maybe less than a 1 gigabyte, then you're probably okay. But if you have a 20-page website that has 100 products, you're going to see some slowness in it then.
That was probably nicer than I would have said. Thank you, Arthur.
Well, they have made some improvements, but to what I expect out of a server,
right?
No, I wouldn't use it. But that's just me. It may be better. It may be fine for someone else, But like you and I both know that we use Lightspeed servers, and
right,
that's the only way to go. So.
It's once you've used the Lightspeed server, there is no going back because you realize how much faster it is. I've helped people move over to A2, and I've talked to people who moved over to Green Geeks, and they went, "Wow, it's amazing the difference," and it is. But the basic thing is like you use whoever you want and pay whatever you want. It all comes down to what's the performance of your page is. Each of the pages needs to be done individually. Homepage is probably a bit slower than the rest of them, but you've got to hit those numbers or you're not going to have the people coming to your pages. It still comes back to a why on everything. And I mentioned already that there, vast majority of people who are coming to any page are mobile devices. When you have two basic things really that are keeping people from accessing the information on your pages: page speed and the content on the page. You can fix the content, but you're at the hosting company's mercy for the page speed. I just happened to see something over there in chat, and Lisa, welcome back. Lisa, you haven't been here for a while, but you were on HostGator. Your statement in the chat was, I was set up on WordPress on HostGator. But that's basically Bluehost, owned by the same company.
Yeah.
EIG, which has changed their name, and I'm trying to think of what it is. I'll tell you here in just a second, but they own most of the smaller hosting companies. EIG is now Newfold Digital. And just because I was there, I'll throw that in the chat. I'll throw this link into the chat because this is the Wikipedia page about that company, and it will give you a full list of the companies that they own, the hosting companies that they own. If it's on that list, they're cheap. There's no two ways about it. That's what their whole thing is. They go cheap, cheap, cheap in order to make any money. So if you're expecting a Lightspeed server from HostGator or any of those others that are on that list, it isn't going to happen. Now, I want to backpedal again because it doesn't, I don't want you to think that we're trying to sell you on a specific company or a specific thing. That's not it at all. I'm saying use the list of tools that I gave to you and test your site. It's independent testing. It's not us testing it. It's you. You're testing it with these. You can use all kinds of different ones, and it's going through Google. But you need to see what we already know. You need to go through those and see, wow, well, this is not good, or that's not good. Right. And what do you do about it? Well, if you go from one hosting company that's on the EIG list to another company that's on the EIG list, you're going to get the same thing. So don't do that. Anyway, any questions on that part so far? And even Wix, those kinds of the build a site companies also, even though they're not EIG owned, but they go along with that. Well, we're trying to give you a cheap server. Because most people don't understand that when you get to hosting and you're trying to save a buck, I get that. And you're trying to say, yeah, but I can't afford whatever. When it comes to the performance of your website, you have to do whatever you can in order to get that performance up, because no performance means nobody's coming to your site. And if that's the case, then what good did it do you to go as inexpensive as possible? So the hosting should be something that you go, I can't go cheap on that. And if you look at the prices on either Green Geeks or A2, you're going to find that they're very competitive. The initial pricing from any company is the first year or two, they show you this really cheap price just to make you feel like, wow, that's really cheap hosting. I can do that. Look past that whenever you're considering a hosting company. Look past that and go, what is their normal price? And when you see that, you go, oh yeah, it's a whole lot different. And Green Geeks and A2 are no different. They're going to have a price that's, here it is for the first couple of years, here it is after that. And they'll have it listed like, I don't know how Green Geeks does, but I know A2 says, here's the price. And it tells you for how long, which I believe it's 2 years in the packages that they have. And then underneath that, it says was. That was means that's what the price will be once you pass the time period that you've just paid for or that you're considering. So with that said, performance is a huge thing for everybody and every website. And don't think that I'm just trying to sell you something. Use all those tools and test them. Test whatever you like till the cows come home. Okay, next thing. When you're looking at tools and trying to help your site, we already know that the Lightspeed is part of it, but let's just say, well, I'm not on a Lightspeed server. Something else that you can do is your images. And when you go into your image library, and of course, this is for WordPress. Shopify does it differently, and so does Wix and everything else. But generally speaking, you're going to go into your library of images, and you're going to look at each one and see how big it is. And you'll see the dimensions, you'll see the size of the file, and dimensions, it's really confusing because when you say what's the size of the file, most people think, okay, well, dimensions are blah, blah. Well, size also means the weight of that image. This one is 15 KB. That's a pretty light image. But let's just say that you were 250 KB for this same image. That's a very heavy image for this size. And in order to get the weight down in an image, you need to use some of these tools that I've provided in that list. that will optimize and even crop if you need to. Cropping is a lot of times mandatory, but you definitely want to make sure that it's the smallest size, which is the weight, and the dimensions are the correct dimensions for that image. This image is 324 square, and on the front end of the website, we can go to my little handy info from Firefox, and I'll share that. This little window that comes up in Firefox, I can go to media and I can see the various sizes. So that one that's that I just showed you in the back end, this is it on the front end. So I'm actually 25 pixels outside of what's being displayed. That's one of the things that you want to look for. And of course, I uploaded it thinking, well, 325 is about right. Now that it's in there, the system is saying, yeah, but it should be 300. Okay. And yet I have all these images in there at 300 because WordPress took care of that. They make them the size. So when you make one image, you get 3 or 4, Arthur.
Sorry, what was that?
Three or 4 images in addition to the one that you uploaded from WordPress for the various thumbnails.
I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Oh, when you upload an image into WordPress, how many different images does it make? So you have one for different sizes of the.
Oh, that's
devices.
sometimes, it's usually does 4. You usually have 4 variations, but sometimes you only see 3. And it's usually the original size, and then they create another size for tablet and then mobile. Makes thumbnails. So actually, when you upload an image to WordPress, you're actually getting 4 images out of that one to be responsive.
And so everybody understands what we're talking about. WordPress's idea was that if they upload this X-sized image, we need to also make sure that it fits with these other devices. And instead of you having to upload all these individual images, you upload the one, WordPress says, okay, well, we're also going to make them for these other devices. And it does it automatically, which is great. Now you don't have to mess with that. Questions on this part so far? No questions at all. Okay, quiet group today. When you upload images, you need to make sure that they are the right size for that spot. Don't upload 1,000 by 2,000 something and expect the browser and the system that you're using to say, well, they'll make it 300 by 300. Don't do that. That's part of your performance problem. That's one of the biggest things that slows down a page. Trying to go from here to what's actually displayed on the page takes time for the browser to do that, and it takes longer for a mobile device to do it. So don't force that mobile device to make those decisions of, well, we got to make it fit here. And there's a couple of different people, so I'm going to try to address those. In Wix and those other build sites, same thing. You want to make sure that you upload the size that it appears or is displayed on the front end. And when I talk about the front or back end of a website, I'll go over here again. This is the front end. This is what visitors all see. And the back end is your administration area. Get rid of this guy that I popped up. And here we are at the dashboard of WordPress. So you're into the administration area. So however you administrate your website, you want to make sure that you can get around easily. And of course, most people are using WordPress who are here in the meeting. And a lot of this is, you've got your pages. If you're not familiar, start from the dashboard, take a look at the things that you have. Media is going to be where your images go. Pages are where you write pages. If you're using a blog with WordPress, then you would go to posts. Now, the appearance is where your themes are, plugins, exactly that. What plugins do you have? If you're on this Lightspeed server, like this particular site is, a Lightspeed server automatically installs the plugin so that you can use that Lightspeed server properly. And the video conferencing was something that I was playing with. I haven't tested it or anything, but it just has to do with Zoom. One of the plugins, I know Arthur's going to kill me for this. One of the things that you usually add, and a show of hands, how many people are using Yoast? Okay, there's a couple of them. And it's not a bad bit of software. It's kind of a starting point. Anybody else? I just saw 2 hands go up, but I'll bet there's probably more. What's Yoast? Now, there may be some people asking, what's Yoast? We'll search for that. Because it has a lot to do with what you're doing with SEO while you're in this group. Yoast SEO has a free version and it has a paid version. You can use the free version, but it's limited. If you really want to get into it, we're not going to go into all the aspects of it, but I'm installing it now, as you can see. And once you do that, you're not finished, because once it's installed, now you can see here it is. We're going to activate it. And after you activate it, you're not finished. That isn't all you do. That is only the beginning. So when you first install Yoast, you need to go into each page and see, okay, here's the sample page on the front end. Let's give it a look here. And of course, there are different versions that you can see, whether you're using, what's the Gutenberg, or the age-old standby, the old style of WordPress editor. Depends on what you've got installed, but look for Yoast on each page and see what it has found. In this instance, it didn't find any keyword phrase for the home page, so you need to add that. If you had just let Yoast go with whatever it found by default, that would have killed you on that particular page. It does have a title, but it doesn't. So it's like, okay, we need these things. It's called a sample page. That's the slug, but it doesn't have a description. You have to add that description. What is that page about? Well, about nothing at this point, but you need to say, what is the page on which you are working, this sample page that you're viewing? What's that page about? Because that is where you're going to start to let Yoast know how to analyze this page. And then you're going to go through each of the areas to understand what's happening. Well, that's the first thing it says. There's no outbound links. Okay, yeah, I know that. I'm not linking to anybody. Is it critical? No. Get your critical stuff first. Then go back and say, well, it might help if I did this or that. As you learn, you come back and you adjust things in Yoast. But initially, at least get a title in the page, get the description in the page, get keyword phrase that really is a good keyword phrase on this page, so that Yoast sees all of that and says, okay, I get it now. And then you go up to the update and you update the page, and that remains, so that you can then say, all right, fine, I'm done with that. Now I can go back to another page. questions on that part so far? Because there's a lot of stuff in that. I see a lot of people thinking. Go ahead. Send us your thoughts. There's a lot of people really thinking hard.
With the Yoast plugin, there is yeah, go back to where you were on that. I want to point something out.
The plugins or pages?
The page, you know,
Right.
where the meta is, yeah. When you scroll down, you got your readability, your schema, and social. Okay, these are going to help you. Okay, if you go back to readability, and you'll see word completed, your vocabulary, your large on, and you'll see a link. It says Yoast SEO Premium will help tell you. Or if you go further down where it says passive voice, if you click on those links, that will take you to that information where hosts will explain to you what passive voice is, you know, why you need to have it, you know. So the plugin actually will teach you how to use it if you just, you know, if you just use the links that are available to you, you know, because I mean, really, you know, I mean, all that is important when it comes to SEO. And, you know, rather than try to explain all the details, it's best just to click on the links and go to their website, and they will explain everything you need to know is right there on their website. Because when you're setting up SEO plugins and stuff, the configurations are probably the key to how you set them up, because there's some things you're going to need, some things you're not, you know, and these plugins will explain it.
Even your paragraph length. Some things you have to look at and go, well, don't treat it as gospel. Paragraph length, you have to use some logic. For mobile devices, if you have a really big paragraph, it's kind of difficult to read. Even this paragraph that doesn't look that much on a desktop, but when you're on a mobile device, it gets long. Let's take a look at it on a mobile device. So it's not nearly as small looking as it would be on let's go to a really junky phone. Small mobile device. So that's quite a bit of space, that one paragraph. This isn't bad to me, but I know a lot of people swear up and down as well, you should have no more than 2 sentences in a paragraph. Well, again, there isn't anything that's engraved in stone saying this is the only way to do it. It's a matter of, well, this might be good.
Yeah.
And I'll go back to the age-old phrase that I use quite a bit. SEO is an experiment. There is no step-by-step procedure to say, just do it this way, do it this way, do it this way with all the stuff. There's so much involved that everything that you're doing, the title of the page, well, let's see, can't be too long, can't be too short. It needs to describe the page. So in other words, just for the title of the page, you're going through some thought process of what's best. Research keyword terms to find out what are people searching. That's the best way to find out how to title your page, because that title page goes along with the keyword terms in the page. So let's see, where did we leave off? Oh, well, we're looking at anything else as far as what do you think about schema, Art?
Schema
I know for me,
is,
I'd say, you know what, leave it there, because it's a default, because the more you dig into that, the more it's going to just get confusing.
yes, you know, schema is you have to read about it and try to explain it. You know, schema markup, it makes it easier for search engines to see your site. You know, and schema markup, it's not a page ranking thing, but it does help get your site where it needs to be. I mean, it's kind of a catch-22. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't, you know. But I mean, Google ain't gonna say it's a ranking algorithm, but yet it does help your website, you know. So
That's the thing about a lot of SEO. You'll see, oh, this doesn't matter. You know, who'd you hear that from? Because it has a direct effect. If you're talking to a marketing company, oh, that doesn't matter.
yeah.
If you're talking to somebody who really knows SEO, you're going to say, well, it does, and here's how. So it gets into a lot of detail, which SEO does. So I'm going to say, drop back to look at the page speed insights, to look at the performance of the site, and then use some of those other tools in that list that I gave you and find out if there is something that's really wrong with the page. Those are the things to address initially. As you learn about other things, okay, you can try to mess with those, but the performance, what to change about in order to make the performance better, though, that's where you need to start. And as you're learning what's going to make this faster, what's going to help this page load better, what's going to help the performance of the page, do those first. Because having the traffic, if you can get the traffic coming to your site, you want to make sure that they can actually load and use the page quickly. That's trick number one, and it's probably one of the biggest, I should say, probably one of the more difficult things to make sure that your site does. Even this is going to say, well, you could do this and you could do that. Yeah, but it's not that bad. The accessibility is literally talking about the people who come with like a sight impairment and have a reader, that sort of thing. Can they use the page? Well, apparently 97, a score of 97 says yes, they can read and have no problems with that page. Maybe there was something which I can't think. Links. Well, you can address that because it's talking about the links. You don't have to. Sometimes jargon throws people off. When you read stuff about what's the problem or what's not a problem, you're usually reading the results. Don't get stuck on the jargon. Look at the basic text of whatever it's talking about to see, oh, I don't know that jargon word, but I do know what they're talking about as far as the other things. Don't get hung up on the jargon. And when you get down to the SEO, just because you see a score here, that doesn't mean how good your SEO is. This just means are parts of SEO that are required in the page. The meta description is not there. Beyond that, something is blocking the page. Okay, you can get into that later. But the idea is that it's not telling you, is your SEO actually good or bad? That is not in this number. It has nothing to do with this. So don't concern yourself with that part. Now I'm going to stop again because we've thrown a lot of things, and there are people who have different platforms. So I want to hear from you guys in more specific things. Smush. Okay, I see people using different things. Lisa, I'm going to call you out. I don't see you on this screen. Oh, there you are. Can you come on for a second, Lisa? Because you stated in chat, Google recommends WordPress images 1080 by 1080. I want to make sure that we understand, that everybody understands and you understand whether it's you start with a 1080 or whether you are using a 1080 as a maximum size. Where did you come up with that number?
I had that number in my brain from years ago. And that's just what I've always, that's what I've always been using.
I mean, there's probably some place that it made sense to make that statement, but whatever size image that is going to be displayed, that's the part. It's not how big an image can I throw into the website. It's what is the size of the image that is displayed on the front end. When you're looking at the front end, is it a 300 by 300? If so, that 1080 by 1080 is way out of line. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. And I was talking about blog posts.
Well, even in a blog post, it's whatever page, whether it's a blog or WordPress or Joomla or anything else, it's a page that's on the internet, and a mobile device or desktop is going to go to that page. We don't care whether it's blog or anything else or what you're using it for. It still has the same issues with responsive performance and SEO. Everything still goes into that page the same. So how you use the page is of no concern. It is to you because you're reaching a particular audience and you have a particular reason that you're doing a blog. But the sizes of the image are still, they need to be the same. If it's only displayed at 300 on the front end, that's the size that you upload. Does that make it make sense?
Yeah, no, I mean, my website is, there's nothing fancy about it. It's basically has my blogging on it, and I like my blogs, and sometimes the cover, the featured photo looks better in a bigger size. And when I load it, it seems to load fast enough.
You're on a desktop. Everything loads fast on the desktop.
Well, and even on my phone too.
You've been there before. That's why when you do these tests, those testing softwares, those platforms, they haven't been there before. They don't cache it on that page.
Gotcha.
So when you do a test, that's giving you, here's what everybody else sees. So when you've gone there several times, you go, well, yeah, it loads really fast for you. But somebody who's never been there before has to sit there and wait while things cache. And if it's taking longer than 3 seconds, they go, never mind. At a desktop, it loads fast because a desktop design, the processor and the cache and memory are tremendously larger than anything in a mobile device. So they can handle that speed. That's why whenever you test, never test for the desktop because it doesn't matter. We're only testing for mobile devices.
I just recently added the cookies onto my website. Does that slow the speed down?
No. The cookies should be on pretty much every page. A lot of the platforms, WordPress and Joomla, both use cookies just for performance, not necessarily to gather information. It's they need a cookie in order to make this thing function, wherever this thing on the page is. Could be software that you've installed, could be a slider, could just be the way that the platform loads that page. It needs a cookie to be able to know what's looking at it and how, and saying, okay, we've got that information, now we can load that page. And it does it in a split second.
Thank you.
You bet. And welcome back. Jessica Monroe, how do you reduce the size? And that's kind of like what Lisa was saying too. And you can resize them in whatever platform that you want, whatever software that you want to resize an image, you do need to resize them. I use paint.net, but you can use Photoshop, you can use whatever program that you want. I think Art even uses just photos. and does a lot of his stuff. And I just wanted to go through that quickly, and then I'm going to go back.
I just took a look at Lisa's site, and it's actually loading pretty good. The LCP and is at 2.7. I mean, it's
Okay,
it's looking fine. I don't see.
Lisa, you've been to our meetings enough times.
What's that?
I was just saying to Lisa, she didn't log off. She's with us still, but I'm just saying that she's been to enough meetings. She's done her homework. So apparently she's applied it and it's working for her. So the performance is pretty good, you're saying.
Yeah, the only thing I see is she doesn't have any link titles for her SEO. Her SEO is a bit low. Technical SEO.
That's not so bad. She can handle that.
Oh, she doesn't have a meta description. Her page doesn't have a description.
Well, Lisa, you'll have to go back on that one. And I want to get to Jessica before she before her arm goes numb. Jessica, can you come on?
This is Chad speaking, actually.
Oh no, I have to talk to Jessica.
No, there you go.
I'm here.
So we're both sitting in on this one. No, where I was going with the image sizing is that we can create our own through like AI programs and stuff like that. And when we're seeing on the page builders, it's giving us a specified size. Now, should we build to that size, or should we be reducing it proportionately? And the reason I say that is because if it says let's put in a 800 by 800 pixel image into this unit or block, then we come back and it goes, oh, this image is way too large to even load to our file, and then now we've got to use third-party programs to bring that in from offsite storage kind of things. So for us, as you'll see if you read through the comments, we've continually said, we're on Shopify, we've got some hurdles and growing pains and other things, but for us to even put in, let's say, a 25 megabyte picture or 26 megabyte picture, we have to put it off to Google Sheets or something for that image to be able to import it back into Shopify, because they only max out at like 24 or 25 megabytes. So if we're over that and we need to resize, how can we go about that? Or do we just adjust the DPI?
Arthur and I are both ready to jump in, but go ahead, Art.
That 25 megabyte is just way too big. Way too heavy of an image. That's why you're going through that. It needs to be, you can convert it, compress it.
And now, how does anybody compress an image based upon the exact pixel ratio after it's already made?
Let's circle
back. Or are we just proportionately shrinking it?
Circle back to the original part, or the first part of our meeting today. Look at that list. In that list, you're going to find links to sites that will compress and optimize your image. Some of them do both. Some of them just do one or the other. The point is, first, you want to know what is the size that you need on the front end. How much of this 2 megabyte image is going to be displayed on the front end? Is it you said 800 by 800. If that's the case, that's the dimension size that image needs to be first. Now, if you've got an 800 by 800 and you have figured out some way to get that thing to be 2 megabytes, I want to see it, because that would have to be at least a 300 DPI image.
Yeah, that's about right. 300-400.
Okay, so let's back this truck up.
Folks,
So
you're doing 72 DPI?
Folks, there is no, you got me tongue twisted now. There's no browser capable of showing higher than a 72 DPI image. I see some people kind of looking funny, so I'm going to repeat that.
Do you want me to
Browsers
submit a
cannot,
screenshot of that?
browsers can, I can't see you guys, but you probably are looking funny too. Browsers cannot display higher than 72 DPI. So if you're trying to upload a 400 DPI image, never mind. It's a exercise in futility. The dimensions of that image first. Forget the 300 DPI, because on a browser, and you can test this yourself, you can figure out how to upload your 2 megabyte pixel or 25 megabyte pixel image, or 25 meg weight image, and then put a 72 DPI image in next to it. And you can test the browser, have them on 2 different pages. Test the browser, look at them side by side. You will not tell the difference between them. And yet, if you've got a 300 DPI image sitting in front of you, and you've got a 7200 or 72 DPI image in your other hand, you can see a dramatic difference. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So that probably is what's affecting, because we are big fail.
Oh,
on
yes.
page speed.
Yes. You've got to stop trying to upload these huge file weight. And I'll circle back to that too, because there's a difference between the file weight and the file dimensions. Yet both often use file size as a description. That's not telling you whether it's too much in dimensions or too much in weight. But if you've uploaded several times the proper dimensions and it still says the size is too big, that's the weight of the image. But you're going to take that whole thing off the table, because from now on, you're going to make sure that your images are 72 DPI. And it's going to kill you because you're trying to get these pretty pictures in there, but nobody's going to be able to see 300 DPI anyway.
I wish you could see us, Tom, because Chad is.
He's pulling his hair out right now, ready to come through and
We
punch
have-
me. I'm
I
trying
just
to
hope
say,
the software works real good now.
Because we have 9 companies that we've launched our website under one, and he's been doing all the photos and making them all nice and pretty. And yeah, so if you could see his face, you just
Yeah.
blew up his world.
my favorite saying is, if I knew then what I know now.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
And now you're gonna get mad and run. Why do we listen to that guy?
Yeah. No, I got some work to do, it looks like.
Thank you.
Just remember, as long as you've got a 72 DPI image, then you just have to worry about your dimensions. That's it.
Perfect. No, that's awesome. I appreciate
What
that.
do you
Thank very
use
much.
to crop or resize your images?
Actually, in our case, we use Affinity. So it's like Adobe Illustrator,
Okay.
but it's a one-time purchase, kind of like how it used to be back in the day. And when it goes on sale, I think it's about $50 American for
Wow.
one of 3 programs.
It's amazing, yeah.
You can get it specified for the designer aspect, to build graphics and a bunch of other stuff. You can also utilize the photo for editing, and you can use Publisher for editing PDFs and other things that you may need to make other catalogs and whatnot. So if you purchase all 3 of them, we did it for $80 Canadian for each program. And you can get it for, I think there's twice a year, it goes on sale for about $50 American.
Wow. What was the name of that?
Affinity.
Affinity Designer, Affinity Photo, and Affinity Publisher. And if somebody wants to just start doing something right out of the box, Affinity Designer will probably get them started for doing like logos and backgrounds. And then if you want to get into photo editing, Affinity Photo is probably the best place to go.
Yeah, that's it.
Just to remove backgrounds and kind of make PNGs and that kind of thing.
And now I'm going to go the complete opposite direction. Art goes nuts every time I do this. It's free.
There you
can
go.
pay for it. You can, if you want to, you can donate.
I couldn't find anything like this when I started. and I just went with what was supposed to be something that was capable of doing everything I needed to. I didn't have reliable access to utilize the internet or anything like that, being out in a rural area. So Canva wasn't a reliable option at the best of times. So that's why we stumbled across this one. But the nice thing is I have it anytime I need it, wherever I go. So
yeah, whatever works for you, man. That's what's important.
Yeah, that's true. That's exactly it. I was going to lead to get the different way, but a lot of people go, why do you use this free clunky paint? Well, it isn't really clunky. It actually does pretty much everything that I want to do. There are times when it doesn't optimize a particular image as much as I want it to, and I'll run it through an optimizer that I find online, or I'll crunch an image because it needs to be, well, for whatever reasons. If paint doesn't do something in that list that I gave to everybody in that text file, you're going to find stuff that, well, this one might do it, but this will. And I don't think that I added anything to that list that you have to pay for. There are free versions, there are paid versions of some of those things. But the idea is that I've used paint for years. And I started almost 25 years ago. Paint wasn't around, but I did use, trying to think of what that hot metal. I bet nobody has any clue. Wait a minute. Sue Ellen, you know hot metal? Oh, wow. Okay. That is interesting. Probably the first person I've ever talked to that knows hot metal. At any rate, I've used Photoshop. I've used very many paid programs. I've used the free programs. It really depends on your focus, what you like to do, what you prefer.
Yeah.
And when I get into something, I load this paint, it comes up fast, it does what I want for the most part. If there's something in addition, okay, that's fine. But I can usually do everything that I need to do just with paint. And once in a while, I come across something I need something else. And I have just done it that way. It's not a matter of being dirt cheap or something. It's not a matter of I just don't want to spend any money. It's just, I want something that I know I can get in and out. Boom, I'm done.
Yeah, I mean, I use things totally different than what you do.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no wrong or right to it. I mean, I do when I'm building websites and stuff, and somebody sends me 50 images that I need to put on the website. I need a tool that can do it in bulk, where I can upload 50 images, I can compress them, I can convert them to WebP, and then download them after they're done into a zip file and upload them to the website. But on an individual basis, there's other tools. So there's lots of tools out there that can do it.
Which is why I made sure that you guys all have that list of tools, because there are so many tools that you will need at some point, and maybe you won't need it for several months. Maybe you'll need it daily. It's the stuff that you use daily or you use a lot. That's the time to say, I like the way that this works. Don't worry about whether it's free or whether it costs you $50 or, it's when you get into $80 or $100 a month for something, it's okay. I hope you have a real good need for that, because that's pretty expensive. Even if it's 80 or $100 a year, I got to question how many times am I going to use it. But there are things that you're going to use or that you need to use, and yes, you'll have to pay for something. But go through that list that I gave to you guys, because you can optimize images. At some of the places where Art was talking about how you can upload a bunch of images at one time and compress them, change the format of the image so that it's all done through the same process. Those links are in there too. So you'll have that. You guys have that list now. If there's something that we talk about that is not in that list, let us know, because I'll send you that too.
Yeah. And then when it comes to SEO tools, In my opinion, the best one out there that you're going to find to monitor your website is SEMrush. It's $100 a month, but you have to look at it as an investment and not as an expense. Because if you use SEMrush, it's going to tell you everything that you need to know about your website. It's going to tell you about your backlinks. It's going to tell you about what links are broken, where you need improvement. It'll help you do the keyword research. I mean, it's everything, and a lot of people can't get past that $100 a month or 119, whatever it is. But it just really depends, what you're willing, or what you can afford, I guess I should say.
Or if you're like me, you're just playing Scotch. And that comes up all the time. It's like, okay, yeah, I do need this, so maybe I'll pay for SEMrush for a couple of months and then I'll stop it.
Sure.
Because I'm too Scotch to say, well, I'm going to pay for it and not use it. No, my mother would have a fit.
Yeah.
She'd be rolling.
Yeah, you could upgrade and downgrade. I mean, I know people do it all the time. They'll use it for 2-3 months and then they'll downgrade to the free version. And then 6 months later, they might fire it back up. Now how much of that data is retained? Now that's a different story, but there's ways to do it.
So many different ways to do pretty much anything. That's why that list that I sent you is so big. It really depends, in that list that I sent you guys, you're going to find several that you like to use. You might find several that you go, nah, don't care about those. That's fine. It all depends on what you're doing, how often you're doing it, and what your needs are. And I was just taking a look because I saw in the chat that our 300 and 400 DPI folks, Jessica Monroe and her other half, dropped in their site. So I thought, okay, be careful what you do, because I'll look at stuff like that. Oh, there we go. See, that's the first thing I look for. I want to see the performance of the site. So I don't look at, is it pretty? Because I don't care. I want to know what the performance is. You got a 9.6, so you're 3 times the amount of time that a mobile device is going to give you before they just leave. You guys didn't leave, did you? Oh no, there, Jessica and your other half. Can you see what I'm talking about? I can't talk. I can't do 10 things at the same time. I can only do 2. There. Thank you.
Yeah, we can certainly see that on our end.
Yeah.
We actually had reached out just because of our page speed and our monitoring. We've got a very similar drop down that shows up in our back end of Shopify. And when we click into mobile and review what it actually says, it comes up as actually failed. Our desktop passes Google's checks and whatnot, but reaching out to our theme developer, because it's outside of Shopify, they basically said, don't worry about it. It's not a problem. It's just something you'll have to deal with. Ooh. And unfortunately, we've never gotten a good answer out of these guys, regardless of the question.
Just deal with it. Wow. Okay.
So we're trying to do the best of what we can with what we got. I'm not going to say we got much to work with.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest a CDN, but Shopify has their own CDN. Yeah. So.
But look at all those pictures he has to work on now.
Each one of those pictures is 100 pictures inside the picture.
Well, there's this one that was uploaded at 600 by 180 has been scaled to 300 by 90. That's your logo up here.
Yeah, it started off with their original size, and if we go any smaller than that, on the physical size, it starts to pixelate everything. So that's why we increased our DPI so high in an attempt to combat all that, because we've fought with this nonstop since day of conception almost 2 years ago, and unfortunately, we're still trying to find a way for the site to actually pay for itself.
Well, one thing I can point out to you that would probably improve the speed is getting rid of that pop-up. It pops up too soon. And I'm looking at my test results here, and I'm getting, you got a 12.5 LCP, which is largest contentful paint. And that is everything above the fold. You know, everything above the fold is taking 12.5 seconds to load. And probably what's going on is it's waiting for that pop-up to load. So let it pop up, you know, say at 50% scroll, you know, to where you're scrolling down the page, and then let it pop up.
See, we recently added that on based upon everybody else's recommendations, for, I guess, web funneling and things like that. Being the home page, we were kind of resilient to do it. We had it on before and we thought it was a bad idea. We put it back on actually just about a week ago here. And I still, again, I don't think it adds much value, but that's
Yeah. Well, it's old school, you know, and from my experience and a lot of the sites that I've built, everybody finds them annoying. And the first thing they do is click it off.
Yeah.
and
As
that was
soon as it pops
exactly our
up.
thoughts as well.
Yeah. I mean, and you know, anytime I set up pop-ups for a website, it's usually at 50 to 70% scroll, where people have to scroll down and then it pops up slow. You know,
And I
it
don't
fades
think we
in.
have that option on ours. It's either on or off
Right. Yeah.
without
And
custom
then-
coding.
Yeah, that's just a Shopify, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, back in the day, they work great and they still work today, but it's all about the timing,
Mhm.
you know, and I mean, I'm sure you've been on those sites where you just get pop-ups everywhere, add here, sign up for this, sign up for that. And you spend the first 5 seconds just clicking, you know, closing pop-ups,
Mhm.
you know, and some agencies swear by them, man, but you know, me personally, I don't like it. And I know half the people, I would say 90% of the websites I build, the people don't want them. They don't like them. You know?
And I agree. I would rather you stay on my site and shop than get your email address, because if
Yeah.
you're gonna be mad at my pop-ups or trying to tell me to subscribe, you know, then
Yeah.
you're not gonna stick around anyways. I'd rather you stick around and shop than deal with my pop-ups, right?
Yeah, if you have good content, a good call to action, and it solves the problem that people are searching for, you don't need those pop-ups, because people are going to see what they're looking for.
Yeah.
You know, they're the last thing on their mind is signing up for a newsletter.
Mhm.
You know, they want their problem solved. So if you have something engaging on the site, your copy is written, you know, encapsulating that, then you're going to get conversions, you know. But for pop-ups, to me, in my opinion, they're annoying. And, you know, I do a lot of research online because of what I do. And anytime I get a hit of websites got a lot of pop-up, I'm gone. I mean, I don't stick around and wait for those pop-ups or close them. I'm gone, you know. So, but, you know, that's user preference too, you know. So, I mean, there's a lot of facts that you have to look at. A/B testing and things like that is what is the way to find out this information. You know, you got to collect the data. You know, but I know I don't like them.
Agree.
Thanks for the feedback, guys. Appreciate it.
Did you guys see that I sent you a cropped logo?
Yes. It's just loading.
You're saying that you're having trouble with it looking pixelated by the time that you reduce the size?
Just using their program. So if I knew
Oh.
exactly what they needed to go in that box, I can build it accordingly.
Take that
But-
image that I just cropped. I just cropped it at 300 by 90, I think is what it came out to. Yeah, 300 by 90. And I believe that was the size that was in the site.
We've lost it on Zoom here somewhere.
Yeah, 300 by 90.
Okay, I will write that down and I will.
Well, what I was doing is that I did that in Paint in just a couple of minutes while we were sitting here chatting. And it's only 8.91 KB, so that's a nice small image.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And it is a WebP. So we already know that that's what's in there now.
Seeing everything I got on there is all PNG. So
And it's okay if they're small, but the larger the image, generally speaking, a WebP is going to be smaller in weight.
I just didn't know how to compress them all on a mass scale. Without spending
that
6 months
list?
trying to find something to do it previous to this meeting.
Oh, I was going to say, so you got the list of all the different tools that I had,
Yeah.
right?
And we'll be going through it very, very thoroughly after this.
But start with the one start with this image that I sent across to you guys, because that one, if that does exactly what you want it to, then stop using the tools that they've got in Shopify or wherever it is that you're using.
Yeah. Yeah, you could take
Going off
some of those.
the developer recommended sizes there.
Did you add the converter in that list?
I believe that I had that. I'm going to put that in here again so everybody sees.
Yeah. I mean, some of these, if you're gonna do in bulk, you'll have to pay a subscription, but it's really inexpensive. I think for the one that I use to compress images in bulk, it was only like $60 for a year, you know, and I can upload 60 or 100 images, and I can compress them all in one shot and then download them in one file. You know, it takes a little bit of time with that many images, but it's usually pretty quick.
Oh, okay.
And the thing for everybody is you have to decide for yourselves, you know, how often are you going to use something? So if you're thinking about, well, this is a great price for a year, but use it twice in that year, it probably wasn't that great a deal, was it?
Well, they have monthly too, you know.
Yeah, monthly.
I think they even have tokens. You can buy like 1,000 tokens, which count against how many images. I mean, they have several options, you know.
Which site was that?
That was Convertio is the name of it. I'll grab the link real quick.
Well, I put the file in, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's the convert to WebP, which I recommend doing.
I thought I had Convertio in there, but maybe I did not.
Yeah, it's a great little tool, man. I love it. I use it every day, you know. I mean,
And for anybody who is interested, we're here for a few more minutes and we'll answer some questions. But if you got to go, I get that too. I understand that. There, just added to the list. And I'll also put that in the queue.
I'll just mute ourselves again, but thank you guys very much. for
You're
that.
welcome. I'm going to throw something across that you guys might also like.
Thank you.
But here's for Convertio. There you go, the one that Arthur was just talking about.
Perfect.
you beat me to it.
I also added it to my list while I was messing around here.
Yeah. Hey, convert your image to WebP, PNG, you know, whatever JPEG, and it does. Not only that, it does all documents. You know, you convert to Word file to PDF, you know, whatever. You know, I believe it even has CSV files conversion.
Well, there you go. Any other questions before we do go? So quiet, the rest of you. we're at the end of the time, so it's anything can go, any question that you might have. Nothing? We've confused you enough and you don't want to ask more questions to have more information? Well, then there you go, folks. Thanks for joining us today. I will convert the Kevin, you're talking about converting video to audio. That's, well, I don't know Convertio that well.
Transcript.
I think that's their main idea.
I think he's talking about transcripting, isn't he?
Well, that's what it would be. Kevin, where are you? Kevin, where you left? Okay. Oh, there you are.
You have to unmute you. There you go.
Okay, so yes, I've actually used Convertio quite frequently, and it is also a Chrome extension that you could use. So I just have it up, and that would just take me to the website. But yes, you could convert any kind of picture file into any other kind of picture file. I mean, I've converted things from WEBP to JPEG or PNG, or I mean, it is an extremely powerful tool.
Yeah.
Excuse me, free tool. And if I'm not mistaken, you can actually even upload multiple files and convert them into one other format at the same time. It just takes time to do them.
Yeah. Yeah, they only allow so many at a time, though.
I think you can only get like 10 at a time, or 10 per day, or
I think
whatever.
so. Yeah. Yeah.
There is
Yeah,
a limit.
I believe you're right. Yeah.
The only reason I know that is I create a lot of online programs, and I download pictures off Unsplash, Pexels, and Picabay, and sometimes they're just not in the right format for me to put them into a Canva file. So I've used it a lot because of that.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Well, that's it. It's all the time that we've got for today. Any other questions? We'll have to hold till next week. So there you go, folks. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next week.